Hello and welcome to the presentation on Inventor sketching. We're going to be looking at general sketch commands within Inventor, constraints and dimensions, etc. As you can see on the screen, we've got a piece of sheet metal that we've got an extra little cutout that we want to perform on here. I'm just going to show you how we can work with this sketch. I'm just going to double click on the sketch to activate it, and first of all I want to see how this is actually constrained within the sketch. If you actually right click and say show all constraints, it's going to show every constraint on every piece of sketch geometry. Now that looks a bit messy to me. I don't really want to see all of those, so I'm just going to hide those and I'm just going to select around the geometry that I'm interested in, which is just that sketch there. Again, I can use the toolbar or right click and show my constraints again, and now because I've selected just that geometry, it's just going to show what I need. You'll also notice that the sketch constraints stay on the same plane as the sketch, so we can see very easily the plane that we're working on. And also, if you want to move your sketch around and modify dimensions, those constraints will actually stay with it as well. We can also change which constraints are being shown. Again, if we just right click, we just go to our constraint visibility, and perhaps we don't want to show coincident constraints or reference constraints. We can apply that, and again, it makes it very easy to actually see what's happening. You'll also notice as I move over each line, the constraint that is holding that line is highlighted, and vice versa. If I highlight the constraint, it will highlight the line. So you can see very easy to work with those constraints, very quick to see where your sketch is actually constrained. When you're finished looking at your constraints, you can right click and just say you want to hide those. So we're just going to create a cut on that sketch and say OK. Next thing I want to show you, if I just reveal my next sketch, is on this face here. And I've got a couple of pieces of sketch geometry, and what I want to do is do a bit of copying and stretching, etc. So the first thing, I've got this sketch here, and I want to move that around on my drawing. So I'm just going to, again, window around there, and then we've got some standard geometry or standard commands that you've probably seen in standard AutoCAD, which is the copy command. And here I can simply select my base point for my component, and then just click on these other work points, and you'll notice the copy command stays active, and I just copy those around until I say done. I can use precise input if I wish and actually put coordinates in there. I'm just going to say done because they've moved where I need them. Next thing I want to look at is perhaps modifying the geometry within the sketch. And what I want to do is make these a little bit longer. So all I'm going to do is use my stretch command now, again, same as you would use in standard AutoCAD. So all I'm going to do is window around my geometry. Perhaps don't need to select this middle geometry here. Give it a base point, and now I can stretch out. You'll notice dimensions are updating for me automatically, so I can just drag that down. I can do a multi-select if I wish. I can put precise input if I want there. I'm just going to place it somewhere there, and it's now going to fix those dimensions again for me. And I can say done. Next command is we want to use a scale because this is a little bit large. So again, I can just window around my piece of geometry, use my scale command, and again give it a base point, which is going to be in the middle. And here I can actually move my cursor if I wish, or I can put a scale factor in here. So I'm just going to say I want this to be 0.5, hit return, and then I'm done. So it's rescaled that for me very quickly. Again, we're just going to create the cut on that piece of geometry just by selecting like so and say OK. Right, the next thing I want to show you then is our third sketch at the bottom here. We've got a couple of arrows. What I want to do is actually create a little indentation or a cut in my sheet metal just to show these directions. Another thing I want to do though is actually change the colour of those sketches. So if I now do my flat pattern, they're actually sharp differently. And very easily I can now come in, window around that piece of geometry, and then just say I want to edit my sketch by going to its properties. And here I can change the line colour, so we'll make this one blue, and the line type we'll perhaps have it dashed, and the line weight we'll boost it up a little bit and have it 0.53, and we click apply. And we can see straight away it's changed line color, line type, and the line weight. Do the same on the other side. Again, I'm just going to window around there, and we can right click and go to its properties. And here I'm going to change this into a red line. We'll perhaps have a dashed line there, and we'll have quite a thick line on this one. I'm going to make that 0.89 and say apply. So again, we can see we've made a difference on those lines. Next thing I want to do is actually use my cut command, but this time, rather than selecting to cut all the way through my component in one plane, I want to actually cut that across the bend. So we can see it's going to wrap those cuts around, but I don't actually want to go all the way through my material. I just want a little, say, indentation in there. So what I'm going to do is, rather than have the thickness of that component, I'm just going to say I want it to cut through by 0.5 of a millimeter. OK to that. And there we've got our indentations in our piece of sheet metal. So we can see we've got a cutout there. If I just highlight there. So you can see, very easy to use these sketch enhancements in Inventor. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much.